Ever left a room that once felt like yours and no one noticed? I wasn't looking for anything that day, just an old quilt in the hallway cabinet. But tucked behind some games was a thin blue folder I didn't recognize. Inside, a single envelope. No stamp, no address. Just my name, in her handwriting. I knew it right away. The looped B, the soft break in the A, how she used to sign school notes when I forgot my lunch. She hadn't written in years. Not since that winter when everything got quieter. I sat down on the floor, not out of drama, just something in me paused. She never told me she wrote this. Not once. And for a long time, I thought silence meant there was nothing left. But now, with this folded weight in my hands, I wasn't so sure. Maybe she hadn't stopped trying. Maybe I just stopped listening first. The last time my mother came to a family gathering was Thanksgiving, years ago. I had invited her, of course. I always did. But by then, she knew her place. She showed up early, carrying her famous sweet potato casserole. She wore a scarf I had given her the Christmas before. She smiled, handed the dish to my mother-in-law, and asked where to put it. No one really answered. The counters were already full. The turkey was from a caterer. Her casserole stayed untouched. She sat on the armrest of the couch, not the chair. No one offered one. My husband's uncle turned the TV louder while she was speaking. She left before dessert. I told myself she was tired, that she didn't like crowds, that it wasn't personal. But it was, just quiet. After that, she never came again. Still, I kept inviting her. Not with a phone call, with emails, texts, Google Calendar links. I always included her name, always said, "We'd love to have you," but I never followed up, never asked if she needed a ride, never told her it mattered. When I finished grad school, we threw a party. It wasn't big, just some friends, my in-laws, neighbors, a few coworkers. I hesitated about inviting her. I stared at the message for 2 days before I pressed send. No RSVP came. I checked the guest list the night before, told myself she probably forgot, that she might surprise me. She didn't. I looked for her face in the crowd, checked my phone. Nothing. No voicemail, no email, no missed call, just quiet. I made excuses. Told people she had the flu, that she didn't like flying, that she sent her love. But none of that was true. She had just decided not to come, and I hadn't asked why. I didn't even follow up. That choice became a pattern. There were other invitations too. Birthday barbecues, piano recitals, the first day of school. I'd send photos after, but never ask if she wanted to be there. Then, one afternoon, as we were leaving my in-laws' house after a summer cookout, my daughter asked, "Why doesn't Grandma Lucille ever come?" I gave her the usual answers. She lives far. She's older. She likes quiet. Madeline paused, then said, "Mom said she's not invited to stuff like this." I stopped walking. "What do you mean?" I asked. "She said you only invite her to things where she doesn't have to talk to anyone." I couldn't say anything, because I knew what she meant. I hadn't shut her out with words. I did it with silences, with spaces she was allowed to fill, but never fully belong in. She could drop something off. She could smile, but not stay too long, not speak too much. And maybe she saw it. Maybe that Thanksgiving, sitting on the armrest with her casserole untouched, was her answer. She never said anything. She just stopped showing up. And somehow, that silence told me more than any excuse ever could. There was a time I could hear her before I saw her. The kettle whistling, the radio playing old jazz in the kitchen, her slippers brushing across the hallway. Sound filled the spaces between us. Then one day, the house just quieted. Not all at once, not loudly, just gradually, like a room slowly dimming. After that last Thanksgiving, she still sent cards. A Christmas note with a pressed flower. A birthday card for Madeline signed only L, no message. No return address. Just her handwriting, small and careful. I didn't call to thank her. I thought about it, then forgot. Then told myself it wasn't urgent. Then decided maybe it was better not to make it awkward. She never followed up. There was one time, months later, when I had the flu. I remember texting my sister-in-law for soup, but not my mother. She found out somehow. A package arrived, ginger tea, soft socks, a handwritten label on a jar of broth. No note inside. I sent a thank you emoji. No words, not even a call. I think that was the last time she tried. After that, the silence wasn't empty. It was structured, like walls, like something built deliberately. On Sundays, I stopped reaching for the phone. I'd tell myself she must be out in the garden, or busy, or resting. But deep down, I knew she was waiting. Quietly, not pressing, just there. Once, I turned the radio on while cooking, her old station. I let it play through the static, just to feel like something was moving through the house. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew the silence felt too sharp. One afternoon, Madeline brought home a school project. Build your family tree. I pulled out the photo box. There was one of my mother holding her as a baby. She looked young, nervous, hopeful. I stared at it for a long time before handing it over. Not because I didn't want her in the project, but because I wasn't sure if I'd earned the right to say, "This is your grandmother." There's a voicemail I still haven't deleted. She says, "Hi, sweetheart. Just wanted to hear your voice. No rush. Just whenever." It's dated 2 years ago. I never called back. I told myself I would tomorrow. Then the week blurred, then the month. Then I forgot what calling even meant. She never called again. Maybe I didn't forget her. Maybe I trained myself to live in a world where she no longer existed. I smiled through holidays, laughed at dinner, posted birthday pictures, read bedtime stories, gave advice, packed lunches. I filled every silence until it stopped echoing, but I couldn't fill the shape of her. Some absences aren't loud. They don't scream. They just sit, quiet, like a chair no one moves, because they're still waiting for the person who left it. You ever pretend joy just to avoid being asked what's wrong? I did, longer than I care to admit. It took me 3 weeks to open the drawer. I had cleaned the kitchen, sorted the closets, boxed up the towels she loved and the sweaters that still smelled like lavender. But that drawer in her bedroom dresser, I avoided it. I didn't know why. Maybe I did. That morning, I sat on the floor. The air was still, a little too still. I opened the drawer slowly, half expecting nothing. But inside was a bundle of letters tied with a silver ribbon, neatly pressed. Most of them had no names, no stamps, no dates. Just folded pieces of paper, held together as if they were a secret garden no one had walked into in years. I picked one at random. It wasn't addressed to anyone. Just a few lines, words that sounded like she was speaking to herself. Others were longer. Reflections, maybe. Or fragments of things she wanted to say, but never did. I realized she'd been writing for years. Letters never sent, thoughts never spoken. All nameless. Until one wasn't. Near the bottom of the bundle, there was a single envelope that had my name on it. Beatrice. No dear, no return address, just my name in her steady hand. My fingers trembled. I unfolded it, expecting something short, maybe vague, but the first line stopped me. "Thank you for thinking of me, but I won't be coming." My breath caught. It sounded like a response. But to what? Then I saw the date, written faintly in pencil at the bottom corner. It was from 4 years before I had sent her the invitation to my graduation. I froze. That couldn't be right. I reached for my phone and checked my email archive. Scrolled back, found the date I had sent the invite. It was 4 years later than the date on her letter. She hadn't replied to my message. She had already written her answer, years before I even asked. It wasn't that she refused to come. It was that she had stopped expecting to be invited. My chest tightened. I looked back at the drawer. Buried beneath the letters was a legal envelope. Inside, documents transferring her cabin to a local nature trust. She had signed it the same week the letter was dated. On that week, she gave something away. And she gave something up. And then I saw it. The original invitation. Still sealed, the one I had sent. She never opened it. She had held it in her hands, recognized it, maybe read the name on the return label. But she never broke the seal. Not because she didn't care, but because she had already said goodbye. I had spent years thinking she was the one who walked away. Now, I wasn't so sure. I reread the letter. It wasn't angry. It wasn't sad. Just firm. I won't be coming. No demand. No guilt. Just a decision made long before I even realized there was a choice to be made. And near the end, you don't need to reply. I just wanted you to know. That sentence sat inside me like stone. Because deep down, I had always told myself that she didn't try hard enough. That if she wanted to be part of my life, she would have shown up more. Spoken louder, reached out. But maybe she did. Maybe I just didn't listen. Maybe I trained myself not to hear her. The truth hit me harder than grief. She wasn't waiting for an invitation. She had stopped waiting to be let in. I thought silence meant distance. But maybe, for her, silence was dignity. I folded the letter again. The paper had a softness to it, like it had been handled many times. I wondered how often she had picked it up, considered mailing it, then folded it again. Choosing, again, not to send it. She didn't destroy it. She kept it, not with her journals, not with her bills, but with letters that no one was meant to read, except this one, the only one with my name. She had written it for me, but not to be received, just to be placed somewhere, to give the words a home. I didn't photograph it. I didn't show it to anyone. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't mention it to my daughter. Some things aren't for explanation. They are for reckoning. I walked outside. The sun had just started cutting through the morning mist. The garden was quiet, hers. I lifted one of the large stones on the path and placed the letter underneath. No ceremony, no note, just a return. Later that evening, I found a slip confirming the donation of her property. No tribute, no public mention, just a line, donated anonymously. That was her final act, a release, not a request. That night, I sat alone and tried to remember the last time she called. It had been years, and I remembered how, after I told her twice I was too busy, she stopped. I thought it was stubbornness. Maybe it was protection. She didn't stop calling because she gave up on me. She stopped calling because she chose to keep her voice intact. That realization broke me. Not with regret, but with recognition. Maybe I hadn't just failed to hear her. Maybe I had decided her silence was easier to bear than her disappointment. And now, holding the weight of a letter that was never meant to be delivered, I realized what she had given me. Not guilt, not shame, but clarity. She had offered her absence as a boundary. She had said, This is where I end, and where you may begin. No blame, no plea, just a quiet end. And it was that silence, utterly hers, that became the last thing I truly heard. I never told anyone about the letter. Not my husband, not Madeline, not even the friend I always call when something aches. Some silences need to stay whole. Not because they're secrets, but because breaking them might unravel what they held together. A week after I found it, I drove back to my mother's house. The keys still worked. The garden had gone wild, roses reaching in every direction, vines curling into the fence like they'd been looking for something. I brought gloves, pruners, a soft brush for the stone path. No music, no calls. As I cleared the corner under the oak tree, I found a cracked terracotta pot. Rosemary once. I picked it up to toss in the bin, but paused. The crack looked like a line someone once tried to glue shut. My chest tightened. I set it aside. Some things aren't meant to be fixed, just held. At the back steps was the flat stone I remembered from childhood. Mama called it her thinking spot. I knelt and slid the folded letter beneath it. No envelope, no name, just what she wrote. And what I never answered. She never sent hers. I never replied. Maybe this was our answer, both quiet, both true. Later that week, I called the same nonprofit she had given her cabin to. I asked if they had scholarship funds. They did. I wired a sum. No name attached, no tribute. Just a note. For a woman raising someone alone, no questions asked. I didn't tell Madeline. She doesn't need to know everything to feel it. That's what my mother gave me in the end. Not guilt, not a lesson, but an invitation to understand her language. The language of doing without declaring. You don't have to be named to matter. You don't have to be seen to change something quietly. Somewhere, someone will get a call that changes her path. She won't know who made it possible. She won't know why. But maybe, just maybe, she'll feel that someone saw her long before she had to ask. The sun was lower now, casting the house in soft gold. Madeline had asked to come. She said it like a whisper, half permission, half curiosity. So we went. No plan, no reason, just went. The garden had quieted, not empty, just waiting. The kind of quiet that feels like someone stepped out for a minute, not forever. She walked ahead, tracing her fingers along the wooden rail. At the steps, she paused, kneeling near the stone. This is where she used to sit? I nodded. She called it her thinking spot. Madeline looked down, stayed still for a beat, then ran her fingers across something beside the stone. It was a square of fabric, soft and worn, a handkerchief folded tight, tucked into the edge of a root. She lifted it gently. It had little blue stitches along the hem, one loose thread. She sewed this? She did, I said. She always stitched quiet things. Madeline turned it over in her hands, then asked, "Did she know I loved her?" I didn't answer right away. The question wasn't about her. It was about me. About the days I didn't call, the holidays I didn't invite, the birthdays I let pass. I swallowed. She did, I said finally, even when I wasn't sure how to show it. Madeline nodded, then tucked the handkerchief into her coat pocket. We stood under the oak tree where the wind moved gently through the branches. I noticed the shadows on the porch had grown longer. I hadn't realized how late it was. I looked back at the stone, not expecting anything. Just letting it be there, unspoken, still. Healing, I think, is not erasing her silence. It's accepting that I was never brave enough to ask why it stayed so long. It's not about making it right, just making space for what was never said and still choosing to stay. As we turned to leave, Madeline reached for my hand. She didn't say a word, but she held on. And I thought, maybe this is what healing is. Not fixing the shape of the missing, just standing inside it, not to fill it, but to remember who once filled it, even when we forgot to say so. Some letters never get sent, not because they weren't written, but because somewhere along the way, the need to explain faded. We think silence is something to fix, but sometimes it's the only way to stay whole. If something in this found you, you don't have to share it. You don't even have to name it. Just keep it, like a page folded long ago, quiet, unsent, but never forgotten.